and Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political.
Welcome to International Broadcast Media, to the Lawyer's Den. An interesting kind of conversation with people that just kind of, discuss things, that kind of know things, that kind of want to say things to help you know things, say things, and be things. So with that, I want to bring in our panel. Don't mind me. My name is Bill Tresvant. And first, I want to bring in everybody. Jeff. Say hello to your audience, please. You're on mute.
Nice to see you, Bill.
Okay, good to see you. And next, we have Guidry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
All right. And next.
Hey, everyone. Looking forward to a great discussion tonight.
Okay. And Fernando.
There we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing?
Okay, great. So now that I have everybody on, because we're a family here, and we go through tough times and discussions and everything else. So I want to start with Jeff by way of introductions. Jeff is our voice from the out west, erstwhile independent voice, singularly, phenomenally, a JDLLM. Now, Guidry from down south, down in Miami. Everybody wants to be where it's hot and where it's sexy and where it's hot and where it's sexy. And she is hot and sexy. And with a JD and an LLM, young lady, Guidry. Great. Now, Adam, down in Georgia. JD LLM, once again, I can't get away from this stuff. But down in Georgia, he did not make a deal with the devil. But Jeff, Adam, you didn't make a deal with the devil, did you, Adam?
No, but how come you didn't call me sexy?
Because Guidry was taking care of your hair off screen. So.
Okay. It's great to be here, Bill.
All right, fine. And now my erstwhile friend, Fernando. Fernando from New York City. My Republican in the den of thieves that they call Democrats. Fernando.
Bill, my erstwhile compadre. How you doing?
Good. So tonight we have a very, very interesting subject, and it's a little bit serious. And so I don't know if people are going to get a little mad, get a little upset. I mean, we've got the religious right, we've got the religious left. I mean, we've just got people. And the issue is, if the kids define themselves as men or women or boys or girls, do they get to play with my kids? Or should they not play with my kids? Jeff, please, can you introduce our audience nationally and internationally to what we're talking about tonight? Because it's going to get kind of rough. Jeff?
Well, I would like to begin the introduction by quoting a small portion of the NCAA Board of Governors statement on transgender participation. It says, the NCAA Board of Governors firmly and unequivocally supports the opportunity for transgender student athletes to compete in college sports. This commitment is grounded in our values of inclusion and fair competition. The NCAA has a long-standing policy that provides a more inclusive path for transgender participation in college sports. Our approach, which requires testosterone suppression treatment for transgender women to compete in women's sports, embraces the evolving science on this issue and so forth. It talks about how this is also in line with the policies of the U.S. Olympic Committee. Now, the problem that I have with
No, Jeff. Before you have a problem with it, I mean, can you tell me? I mean, listen, do my kids get to play with your kids if my kid has a mustache? I mean, seriously.
Well, you're just playing outside in the neighborhood. I have no problem with it. Of course they do.
Then, Jeff, what is the issue? I mean, why is it such a big bugaboo around the rest of the United States?
Well, it was just mentioned in that statement that transgender women are required to have testosterone suppression treatments in order to compete. Now, everywhere else in sports, I mean, there have been big scandals from Barry Bonds to Lance Armstrong about people doping. And the reason why doping is such an issue is you want to take an athlete's natural baseline and not have it augmented by drugs or hormones. In this case, you're having it restricted in some sense by hormones by taking someone who is naturally born male and turning them into a female. The question arises, and it is an unanswerable question, how much do you have to reduce a man's testosterone to turn him into a woman, and what would his natural baseline have been if she had been born a woman? And so I think there are unanswerable questions that make it impossible to create fairness in sports by allowing a man to turn himself into a woman and then compete against women.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I appreciate that. Guidry, and then Adam, I'm coming to you. So Guidry, I'm coming to you right now, although I do have a bit of a question. Adam, I'm coming to you, and then Fernando, you're my cleanup hitter. But Guidry, here's my question. Jeff talked about this notion of men, womaning up. Now, what about a woman manning up? I mean, seriously, we always talk about and we hear these terms, and I don't mean to offend snowflakes out there, but I mean, when they say put on pull up your big panties, Guidry, why is it that Jeff is all worried about men pulling down their panties and not worried about women picking up their pants? Guidry?
Well, because there is no such a demand, or I think there is more common understanding of the people that for women for biological women who choose to transition into men could be more dangerous to compete professionally with men in their sports. And I think therefore it's not even being discussed. It's kind of being agreed that maybe we should leave it alone. However, when it comes to women, to men who are transitioning into women, biological men, there is a notion that yes, with the decrease of testosterone and estrogen, increase of the estrogen, that it could be physically possible. My opinion is that this subject should be discussed without emotions. I think that we should focus on science, physiological and biological qualities, and what Jeff said about NCAA, that they value inclusion and also fair competition. My opinion is that you could not have, in this point, in this topic, we cannot have both. We have to choose. What do we want? Do we want to have inclusion, or do we want to have a fair competition? My opinion is that we should go for fair competition.
Okay, well, no, Guidry, and Adam, I'm coming to you right next. But Guidry, seriously, isn't this just like the next opening chapter in the civil rights movement? I mean, we've gone through the women's suffragist movement that was 100 years ago. Then we had, the civil rights, meaning Black people, their right to vote back in, the 60s. And now, isn't this just the next chapter? And why are people so mad about it?
Well, I think that we would not have winners in this particular chapter. I think that if transgender women are going to be incorporated in athletic competitive sports, it might affect very negatively women's rights and women's sport. I think that there is a reason why we have two classes in sports, female and male, and we have thousands of years of experience and indicators to look into why men cannot compete with women in a biological setting. And therefore, I think that there should be, maybe we should create a third class, a third open class, maybe some transgenders, particularly focusing on transgenders, and women, some biologically, women who really want to compete with transgender women could join such third class. But I think that
Okay. No, I hear you. Now, Adam, please, because I'm so going to appreciate you in a moment. And I'm going to serve this one up for you. First, I hear what Guidry's saying, and it seems to me that I could not compete with the Amazons. There was just the movie out about Wonder Woman, okay? So, Adam, what is the problem? And what are your people down there in Georgia saying why they don't like this and why they don't like that? I mean, what's wrong with women with mustaches? Adam.
There's three problems. First, on average, men are faster and stronger than women. And the relevant...
Well, the Amazons, Wonder Woman says differently.
Well, that's the exception, not the rule.
Tell me differently, Adam.
That's the exception, not the rule. Men typically have approximately 40% more muscle mass than women. Testosterone therapy only reduces it by 12%, so there's still a big difference. Second, it disadvantages biological women, as Guidry said, and frustrates the entire purpose of Title IX. And that leads to discrimination and actually leads to exclusion, not inclusion. Third, and perhaps the most important point, determining who is transgender is not based on any objective medical criteria. It's based on the subjective feelings of the person. We do not have any reliable standards to determine when someone should be considered objectively transgender. It is wholly a subjective feeling. And that's why we should tread very carefully in classifying people as transgender, who, by the way, constitute a minuscule portion of the population. But those three problems are real. We need to protect biological women. We need to recognize the biological differences between men and women. And we need to get to an objective standard about what transgender really means.
All right, fine. Fernando, I am so coming to you. You know why, Fernando? Because you, unmute, please, because I want that I have your attention.
No, don't unmute.
All right, fine. In New York City, you and I know that on any given day when you're in the fashion district or whatever it is, you don't even know who's traipsing down the streets with carts of clothing and everyone. You don't even know who they are or what they are. And everybody's okay with it. And we see it on the front line. So, Fernando, I mean, you heard Adam saying there's got to be a bright line. You heard, Guidry say, her position. Fernando, please.
Look, Adam had me on points 1 and 2. Number 3 just doesn't make any sense.
No. See, no.
Hold on, because I'm just going to explain my. Go ahead.
You can't say point 1 and 3 and 4 because the rest of the world doesn't talk like that. You got to tell me what 1 and 3 and 4 is. You can't just say 1 subsection 6 subsection 7. Fernando?
Yeah, if you would have started talking, I would have gotten to it, because what I'm going to say aligns with what he says, with the exception of that there has to be a bright line as to what is transgender and what isn't. That's impossible and just dumb. Doesn't make any sense. In terms of this specific issue, the problem is the reason, if the girl has a natural mustache, because she's a girl with a natural mustache, then hey, she can compete with other girls, not a problem. It just means she probably secretes more testosterone than other girls. And there's a famous South African runner who does secrete more testosterone than other women, and she's vastly superior to her competition. No. In terms of why you're not going to let a natural man who transitions to a woman participate as a woman is because the gains made in puberty do not disappear when you administer estrogen therapy. Likewise, when you administer testosterone therapy to a woman to make her a man, she does not make the gains that a natural man made during puberty. And that's in pretty much all the studies that have been conducted.
Okay. Jeff, out there in the West, religiously, I mean, how's that play?
Well, I think I'm in a very religiously conservative state. However, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of which I am a member, has taken positions which I agree with on civil rights issues for same-sex couples. And they suggest that in terms of employment and housing, that there be no discrimination against people with regard to sexual preference. And I would assume that they would take the same position with regards to transgender people. And I certainly would. When you talk about it being on the front lines of the next civil rights movement, I don't believe in discrimination in housing, employment, and those other important things. When it comes to sports, I do agree with Guidry that you can't have both fairness and inclusion for all the reasons Fernando just articulated. And it's not merely a matter of size, strength, speed. I would take an example. Layla Ali, one of the greatest female boxers ever, daughter of the great champion Muhammad Ali, legendary figure. Layla Ali fought at 165 pounds. Now, the two men that held world titles at the same time, Jermaine Taylor and Bernard Hopkins, at 165, if you put them in a ring together, I give 1,000 to 1 odds on either Jermaine Taylor or Bernard Hopkins knocking her out any moment that they choose to.
No,
First,
I disagree. I think
minute
you
of
will
the
knock them out, but fine.
And this is the other thing. If it's purely a matter of talent, why are there no women in the NBA? Not a single one.
Okay, all
Okay,
right. Okay,
we separate.
no, fair enough. Guidry, why aren't there women in the NBA?
Well, because that's a very good point, because the rules of NBA would allow women to be included into the NBA, but they are not being drafted simply because of biological and physiological differences between men. So we have men with a more dense bone density. We have a broader shoulders. We have a higher height, longer arms. There is a different pelvic structure that makes men not to be so prone to different knees injuries and so on. So it's basically just for mere purpose of the sports and the women's ability or lack of the ability to really compete on the same level and provide the same results as men. And as Adam indicated, and there is right now scientific documentation that after the testosterone treatment, testosterone bumper, the men would still maintain, biological men who are transitioning into women, approximately 25% more of muscle and bone density. And that's a significant difference. So the point is that right now, there is no testosterone bumper or estrogen and estrogen treatment that would negate puberty, because during the puberty, that's when the men gain all those biological differences in women, and therefore we have two separate.
No, I got you. Adam, I'm coming to you because Adam, here's my concern. Look, I had the privilege of walking hand in hand with some women that were at least a foot taller than me, and I know they could dunk on me, and I felt kind of small. So all this stuff about size, strength, and everything else, I felt like an idiot. Adam, so what is it? Guidry says men are just stronger and women are just weaker. I mean, is that what goes on down there in Georgia?
Yes, men are faster and stronger on average. That's why we have male and female sports. Nobody wants transgender individuals to be discriminated against. Of course not. But there are differences that have to be recognized to make sure we're fair to everyone. And number two.
No.
I would like to ask.
No, Adam, I'm not going to let you off that easy. I mean, at what age? I mean, are we talking grammar school? Because we all played in the sandbox when we were all kids. So girls and boys in the sandbox. Do we cut that off then? Do we stop cutting off what? At middle school?
High school sports, college sports, and professional sports. And in response to Fernando, do we have objective criteria to determine if someone has depression, has bipolar disorder, has schizophrenia, has anorexia, has bulimia? Yes. There is no objective criteria to determine who is not and is transgender. It's based simply on the subjective feelings of people who, at young ages, still don't even have fully developed brains. And to base a diagnosis simply on subjective feelings invites chaos.
Okay, fine. Adam, you know what I heard distinctly, and I think our audience heard both nationally and internationally? I think we heard Fernando's side. Fernando,
Fernando, that's really rude, and I think you should apologize.
Whoa, Adam, please.
When you transition into a woman, then I'll apologize.
And Bill, you should apologize to Guidry, too.
I apologize that if you transition into a woman, you're going to bring down the gender. So
Stop
yes,
it, Fernando.
I apologize to Guidry for
and by the way,
he should transition.
Transgender individuals have comorbidities at a rate much higher than the general population. But I apologize for interrupting. At least I apologize.
Where are you going, Adam? Fernando and Jeff.
Who cares? Who cares if they have comorbidities or whatever else? All of us do.
Because it was classified as gender dysphoria up until a few years ago.
We're a society We're a
Come on,
society
Adam,
built on
Adam,
poor
Adam.
exercise and bad diets. So
Sorry.
citing that is nonsense. And you know, this point that you have these parameters for depression, all this other stuff, there are plenty of people that fake that. So to sit here and throw that out, that's fine. So the DSM-4, the diagnostic manual, has a bunch of criteria. People fake that all the time. People fake depression. People fake all other sorts of mental illnesses. You know, they're hard to pin down. Whether somebody feels like a woman or a man and they're in the wrong body or whatever, yes, it is completely up to them. And however they feel, that's what they can become.
I completely disagree with you.
No,
Adam, disagree.
No, Adam, please. Fernando, I'm trying to crack a joke. Wasn't that a commercial? Feels like a woman. Don't mind.
Yeah.
All right, it was. Adam, please. It's okay. Jeff, I mean, these characters are just, Jeff, can you make sense of this, please? You're my subject matter expert, and I really need you right now. And Deidre, I'm coming to you after it. Jeff.
Well, as I said, I think when it comes to civil rights, we don't want to discriminate against transgender people in terms of education, employment, housing, and all those things. If they want to have a third class of transgender athletes, I'm certainly open to that.
No, fine, Jeff. I mean,
you won't have enough athletes.
Okay, Adam, see how that doesn't work? You stop the discussion. But Jeff, I want to ask you this. I mean, okay, Adam, please. Okay, Jeff, I want to ask you this. Seriously, would you let your children play with transgender kids?
It's funny that you asked that. My son's best friend from high school, who was my son, obviously is male, and then his best friend in high school was male, has converted, is a transgender woman now. And they are continuing to be friends. He refers to his friend as she instead of he now. And, they're still friends. My son is married to a woman, and, there's no strange jealousies or anything there. But sure, I would let my son play with a transgender child. And one of my son's best friends is a transgender woman who he knew all of his growing up years as a boy. So
well, then Jeff.
It's a human being. It's a human being. It's a child of God, in my opinion. Whether it's a man transitioning to a woman or a woman transitioning to a man, they remain a human being and a child of God.
Well, then, Jeff, why does the religious right have such an issue with this? I mean, seriously, there are about 30 different proposed laws out there amongst the 50 states to say this is all wrong, to stop it. Jeff?
Well, I mean, I think there are legitimate objections to it, and I don't agree with all of them. Some of them are theological, and as far as I'm concerned, I might have my own theological objections to it, but hey, to each his own. If you're not hurting me or not hurting somebody else, you can do what you want with your body.
Excellent. Deidre, to each their own. His, her, or she, or I, or who. Deidre, your thoughts? Because I mean, seriously, it seems to me, Deidre, that this is another way that we divide ourselves in society rather than bringing things together. What are your thoughts? And remember, you came from a shut-up society.
So yeah, I think I disagree with Adam. I think his attempt to objectively create a hypothesis of a possibility to define or set some kind of benchmark to determine who transgender is and whether it is acceptable, that level is acceptable to our society to label like that and then include or not include into sports. It just doesn't make at all any kind of sense. I do not believe that such unicorn benchmark could exist or should exist. There is no need for that. I think I agree completely with Fernando. We should respect transgender people, and it is very intimate and personal transition. It's not the same as going to Disneyland to take a ride. Transitioning to be a transgender, it's a very intimate and difficult period and life-altering experience, and therefore we should respect it. When it comes to professional sports, In that case, for instance, in the Olympics, if a transgender woman, biological man who transitions into a woman wants to compete in the Olympics, based on its standards, that person has to be on testosterone debunker for at least 1 year. So there are certain standards. Unfortunately, there's not enough research and peer-reviewed research to indicate and to see the long-term effects and short-term effects when it comes to the competing. Hopefully it will be changed because it's getting more attention to that.
Okay, Fernando, listen. Can my son transition who transitioned into my daughter come beat up your daughter? I mean, is that fair? I mean, how do you look at that? I mean, you're from New York City. I mean, don't mind me, Fernando. I'm just asking.
No, you can ask away. It doesn't bother me. I'm pretty sure.
No, if your son/daughter beats up your daughter/son, is that a fair fight?
It depends on what context is everything in this discussion, and if they're the same age, same type of athletic ability, then probably. But chances are it won't happen because I'll be teaching my daughter how to fight when she's in the crib. You know, really, a lot of
and
this.
That's
right. In this discussion, what's being left out is that a lot of this boils down to scholarship money. And that's really where the parents are flipping out, because now you're having boys who are becoming who are saying that they're transgender and they're transitioning, they're competing in girls' sports, and they're posting numbers and speeds, especially in track and field, where where it's really the hullabaloo is starting, especially in Connecticut. You know, they're posting numbers that are just numbers that the girl athletes aren't going to be able to match. So the fear now from the parents is, hey, I got a world-class athlete who's my daughter who can go to Division I school like Alabama or USC. That's a nod to you,
or Georgia,
Adam,
or Ohio State,
or Ohio State, and get a scholarship. But we have this trans kid who is posting numbers that are better than her. They're going to start taking up the scholarships, and that's where this is, everybody's getting their panties in a bunch, pardon the phrase.
All right, fine, Fernando. Adam, please. You heard from Fernando. We heard from Guidry. I'm going to come back. But Adam, seriously, is it about money or is it about you and your advocacy that says a man is a man and a woman is a woman? I mean, seriously, because you're from New Jersey. You're not from Georgia.
Well, interesting that you ask. This morning, Guidry, I woke up and I felt like I was 25. So I'd ask you to respect that and treat me like a 25-year-old. Actually, this morning I woke up and I felt like I was Lithuanian. So you should treat me as a Lithuanian. In fact, I woke up this morning and felt that I was African-American. So I want to be treated as if I'm African-American. That is the problem.
Sure,
with saying
man.
That we shouldn't have any standards. There's a reason why we have the DSM. And we diagnose depression, anxiety, schizophrenia according to objective criteria. You just don't change laws and policies based on what someone feels. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Jeff, facts don't care about your feelings. And I guess, don't bait me, Adam, but you so baited me. Jeff, facts don't care about your feelings. I feel like a woman today. Jeff?
Well, I'll use an absurd example just to make the point. Shaquille O'Neal, how much estrogen would you have to give Shaquille O'Neal to make him not the dominant force in the WNBA? In fact, you could put him in there with one other player and they would defeat any team in the WNBA without any problem at all. Just give him someone to feed him the ball and he's going to dunk over everybody there. And there is nothing you can do hormonally to him that is going to negate the advantages that he has. Now, his natural baseline is higher than almost every other man on the planet too, when it comes to the physical characteristics and athletic ability that you need to be a professional basketball player. But that's what professional athletics is, and even college athletics is. You're dealing with the best of the best in each gender. And so the best female athletes are competing against the best female athletes, and the best male athletes are competing against the best male athletes. And we agree with that in terms of basic fairness, that the best should compete against the best. What is the natural baseline of a transgender woman that was born male? And, you know, as Fernando pointed out, there's a lot, you know, people may transition at various different ages. And, you know, it may very well be that you can't wash out all the natural advantages of being male and come up with some baseline that actually works.
Okay, no, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate our conversation up till now. What I want us to do, because up till now it's been retrospective in terms of looking why we are here. Now I want to look, and I want to ask this panel where we ought to be going, because it seems to me a couple of things are true, and I may not, and I don't presume to have the complete notion of what's going on. However, there are going to be, and there are already, people in our society, in our community saying, my child, man, woman, boy, girl, whatever it is, that wants to compete and play at the high school level or grammar school level, there's going to be a countervailing force saying they're not going to do it. What ought we be doing? How ought we be thinking about things when we are in our communities and we're thinking about these things? So, Adam, I get where you're coming from, but how do you translate that to a 9-year-old kid that doesn't know any better, that just wants to play in the sandbox? Adam, and then I'm coming to you, Deidre, with the same question. Adam?
Through a clear and unambiguous policy that effectuates fairness for everybody would agree that transgendered individuals should never be discriminated against any inequality. Fact is, though, there are biological differences both in strength and speed, for example, between men and women. Therefore, you should compete in the sport that corresponds to your biological sex. And I would like to add this. Deidre conceded before that we don't have enough research yet to assess the competitive advantage. Okay. Well, we need to get all that research before we allow transgender people in transgender females in women's sports. You don't put the cart before the horse, Deidre. And by the way, going forward, I expect you'll recognize me as 25 and Lithuanian because I feel that way.
Okay, Adam, I'm done with your personal grievances. Deidre, can you please tell him he's not Lithuanian and he's in Georgia and we're done with this?
Oh, now I get discriminated against and marginalized, but not the transgender person who feels like a female. I see how this game works.
Okay, Adam, really? Is it all about you, or can Deidre talk? Please. She's got an LLM too. I mean, only Fernando and I don't. I mean, so please, can you let your colleague talk? Deidre, can you tell him he's not that cute?
Adam, can you get off your head? You're absolutely taking everything upside down. First is you're talking about feelings. Transgenders is so far beyond just feelings. When you try to apply for Lithuanian citizenship or marry a Lithuanian girl or do something, take at least one step behind where you're sitting right now in Georgia, then maybe I will treat you as Lithuanian. But right now, come on, like you're talking about.
You're very discriminatory and exclusive.
Okay.
I feel 25. Why are you not treating me like I'm 25? That is the point and the problem.
Okay.
I'm saying that just because you feel a certain way, you are that.
Let's agree to disagree, because really transgender athletes far beyond from feeling. They are taking different supplements, going through procedures, going through hormonal changes. So come on, like let's not talk about it. But now to answer Bill's question, Bill, you said when you were asked the question, you said, well, my child wants to compete. Now I have a question: which child, a girl or a transgender girl? The point is that both children want to compete, and right now. There is in Australia. In Australia, children until 11 years old are being allowed to play together, girls and boys, meaning that the age before the boys start experiencing puberty. When the puberty starts, no matter how much testosterone and estrogen you want to play and regulate, as Jeff mentioned before, talking about Shaquille O'Neal, it's not going to completely underdo the puberty, because it happens and certain changes cannot be deleted. So we have to understand that, and we have to incorporate that when we decide at what point and at what level, professional or just for fun sports level, we are trying to incorporate and include more people. If it is just for fun, I think that children should play together up until 11 or 12. If it is professional, I think that maybe transgender could compete with regular athlete women, but agreed to compete for fun and not for the award. So then it would still maintain the women's rights to have their own sport and their own ability to really progress and get those scholarships that Fernando mentioned previously.
Okay, well then there you have it. Fernando, snap into it, please. I got to see you. Here's the thing, Fernando, and this is my concern. Are we now at a point in time where there may be a judicial test that says, up till the age of, say, the first trimester, meaning up till the age of 11, 12, which is what Guidry proposed, that said, hey, all things are okay. But then after that, then we start restrictive usage. Because I got to say, Fernando, I think that my transgender daughter who wants to be a boy would beat up your transgender girl.
Again, depends on the age. And you might be right about that type of judicial test. And the reason is, Guidry is right, and the research does all indicate the same thing, that from, the age of boys and girls are the same. So that's why pee-wee ball, pee-wee football, t-ball, it's all mixed gender. My nephew, who is 7, just started pee-wee football. There were girls that were playing on the team. The girls were faster than some of the boys.
Right.
The difference does start setting in at 14 when you start hitting puberty, because boys now start putting on more muscle mass, especially in the shoulders, the lats, the back. The skeleton fills out more, where the female skeleton doesn't. Guys get more muscle, women don't.
Okay.
So
fine.
I think in terms of, well, you need an explanation. You told me to explain earlier, right?
Right.
So in terms of that type of a judicial test would probably make sense. Once you start getting to 14 and 15 and up, this is going to have to depend on what you mean by what type of sports, what's the competitive level. If it's just dudes playing in a pickup game on West 4th Street, who cares? I don't care if your son who wears a skirt wants to come and play with the girls because he's a woman and he's going to start transgendering. Be my guest. What might be another idea is there's a show on A&E called I Am Jazz. She is a boy who started transitioning pre-puberty. Maybe that might be, parents who might be that progressive, if their kid wants to transition at that early of an age, that might negate some of the gains made in puberty. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
No, Fernando, your explanation went far too long. Jeff, listen, I got to ask you, seriously, 2 questions. One, why is it so wrapped up with God's word and religion on this whole thing, on the one hand? 2, why can't Fernando's example of a guy playing in a tutu on West 4th Street down on the basketball court, why isn't that okay? And what do you think about Guidry's proposed standard as a judicial standard from the Supreme Court, given what you know to be the Supreme Court, Jeff?
Well, I'm not sure how to separate all that out. I believe when it comes to, I think the first part of that was about God's word. Now, I don't necessarily need to impose my own view of God's word on other people. And if somebody wants to be a woman and they're not
no. But Jeff, I mean, this is really a fundamental issue, because we have people out there that are like, God made a man and God made a woman,
right?
And and that it should not be, messed with. And we're in a very thicket of a discussion on this issue. And so I'm not going to let you, word your way out of my very direct question. Why is it that the religious people are so upset about this? I mean, Guidry has, it seems to me, a workable standard that Fernando agrees with. And I'm going to come back. I'm not going to speak for Adam because he's in Georgia. But Jeff, why is it that they are so outrageous?
Well, I think you probably stated it as well as anyone could, that they believe God made men men and women women, and he doesn't make mistakes. And, I might believe that religiously or theologically. It doesn't mean that it should be the law. I think, though, I draw the distinction in when it comes to sports for all the reasons that we've talked about on this show tonight. And, another point that I think kind of explains a little more on this situation. I'm 5'11". I weighed less than 150 pounds when I graduated from high school. I'm pigeon-toed and a little clumsy. I was a less than mediocre high school football player. Now, I might have wanted to play college football, but there was no way I was going to make the team. I was not offered any scholarships, didn't expect to be. And no matter how hard I worked, I could never have played in the NFL. I did not have the physical tools. And so I think we're looking at this to some degree like, why should someone be excluded because of their, sexual preference or their sexual identification, or however you want to put that? Well, I think we exclude people for all kinds of reasons. And for me, it was just based on ability. But we are recognizing if a transgender woman who grew up as male enters women's sports, that there's a certain inherent advantage. Now, I think with my lack of athletic ability, I probably couldn't play in the WNBA either. That is, you're talking about a less than mediocre male athlete against prime top female athletes, and it's not the same.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jeff. I'm coming to you, Adam. I just want to say, Jeff, just for your purposes, I was all of 5'1", and I thought I had all the skills in the world. And my brother was a left-handed basketball player. I'm a right-handed basketball player, but the coaches love left-handed shooters, and so I sat the bench and became a statistician. So I had no skills whatsoever, but I, like you, had dreams and hopes and beliefs, but never shall they be accomplished. Adam, please. Adam. Here's my setup for you. May I, Adam, please?
No.
Okay, well, no, then I'm not listening to you. Adam, I'm going to set this up for you. You went to USC. You were on a scholarship. You were a baseball player. You were a pitcher. Were you scared that there might have been a woman that could pitch better than you that would have taken your scholarship? Is it about money or is it about religion? Adam?
Neither, and no, I was not. Because like I've said repeatedly, there are biological differences on average between men and women regarding speed, strength. It's really, that's why we have male and female sports. It's really that simple. But let me say this panel, it is alarming to me how this panel talks the talk but does not walk the walk. When I said I feel like I'm 25, you guys all said discrimination is wrong and we should all be treated equally, which is true. When I said I was 25, you guys jumped on the discrimination bandwagon right away and became ageists. When I said I feel like I'm Lithuanian, Idri all of a sudden became the worst xenophobic person on the face of the earth and said, I'm closing the doors to you. You're not coming in. Wow. Isn't it funny how you guys talk the talk, but when I ask for my equal rights to do whatever I feel, you guys shut me down. That is the problem with not having any standard about who is and who's not transgender like we do for any other illness or anything. And I'm not saying it is an illness. And by the way, what if I say I'm neither male or female? I feel like I'm a new gender, and I'm going to create that gender. Do I deserve respect for that? Let's at least start respecting me because I feel like I'm 25 and Lithuanian, and then maybe we'll get to that and become more inclusive. But right now, you guys are talking about hypocrisy on display.
No, Adam, that's a legitimate point. What I will say to you is that thank God I support the United States military, which would allow you to be whatever you want to be. Now, Fernando, can we assuage Adam's grievances?
Fernando should apologize.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
The issue. the issue with all of Adam's examples is that they're all stupid. Sitting here saying that he feels like he's 25 is just dumb. Sitting here that he feels like he's Lithuanian is just
And you could say the
dumb.
same thing to anybody else who bases their identity on subjective feeling.
Dumb.
Not your turn.
The fact is that people who are transgender usually say that from the minute they start walking and talking, they feel that they don't feel that they belong in the body that they are in. At no point in time has Adam expressed any of that. He just decided to start saying, "Hey, I feel like I'm 25." It's just dumb.
And you turned right towards discrimination as your best friend.
How are you a professor when you don't know what discrimination is? How can you teach any type of law when you don't know the basics? I don't understand this.
I haven't heard. I don't know what you're talking about.
know,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes,
you're not addressing any of my arguments at all.
Yes,
you're just making the statements.
The problem is that your arguments are dumb. They don't deserve to be addressed. Nothing that you're saying makes any sense. Saying that you feel like you're 25 is not the same as saying I am a transgender, or I feel out of place, or I feel displaced. I don't feel that the chemicals inside my body correspond to what's going on.
And what is the factual and scientific basis for that statement other than your own subjective feeling, which again, that is the problem.
No, that is not the problem. The problem is that it hasn't been studied yet. So therefore, you're not going to get that yet.
Oh, so you're going to come to conclusions even though it hasn't been studied yet.
People are going to start studying.
Closed.
Nobody has studied your ridiculous statement that I feel like I'm 25 today.
Okay, no, I got that. Guidry, Jeff, can you guys chime in? I'm gonna sit back because I'm loving it. Guidry, please.
Well, I kind of feel like
I'm waiting for him to show up. I'm waiting for him to show up in an afro and a dashiki like in Soul Man. Because you know,
Fernando, I feel like you're a jerk. So based on your logic, you are a jerk. There you go.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Adam, no, we're not having that. Guidry, please.
At least Fernando has logic because your argument was absolutely without logic. Like honestly, Adam, you're like a toddler who just dropped candy.
It's an argument to say that my arguments are dumb.
I'm sorry, Adam. The worst analogy ever. You said that please treat me as I'm 25 and we continue talking about transgender and now we are ageist. Like, come on, stop it. Let's not digress. Let's focus on the real issue.
You guys are missing the whole point.
After this show, we will talk about you, Adam, and how much we love you and how great you are. So now going back to the point, I think Fernando is very right. I think that...
No, go ahead. No, Guidry, keep going.
I think I think there is another problem when it comes to this subject. Yes, we need more research. We need more scientific peer review research in order to be able to progress. But at the same time, we also need to decide and how we're going to monitor the biological men who transition to women who want to compete in a professional sports. And in this case, at this point, there is no monitoring system to see when there is enough testosterone or not too much testosterone for a woman not to get disadvantage or advantage over the other regular women. So that's another issue when it comes to the inclusion, because if we're including transgender women, we also need to know how to moderate that inclusion in order not to disadvantage incredibly the comparable athlete women in the sport. So I'm curious to hear what would be your opinion about.
Okay, no. Well, we are not calling on Adam again. I mean, that's my job.
I have nothing to say.
Oh no.
Good for once.
Because you guys have not addressed a single argument that I've made. You've instead called me names and talked about non-issues.
Okay.
So I have nothing to say.
I understand your greed. Do you need a hug, or can I go to Jeff?
No, I need some people who exercise a tad bit of logic.
Jeff, logic.
Let me come to Adam's rescue just a little bit.
All right.
I believe the salient point in what he was trying to say with a rather absurd analogy was that when we talk about civil rights, race was the first big issue in United States civil rights law and in the movement. And the idea that we had, I believe, is that race is immutable, that if I was born black, I can't help it. That's how I was born. If I was born whatever race I am, that was an accident of birth. Now, we have treated gender in the same way in civil rights law, that gender is an immutable characteristic. The idea that someone can be transgender and change their gender sort of turns that assumption on its head. It creates the idea that no, gender is actually mutable. We can change it, and that there are certain people who feel compelled to change it, feel like there was a mistake in the way they were born or whatever. And it's a legitimate question in terms of this question of athletics. Now, for me, in terms of the law, I don't care who somebody wants to sleep with or what gender they identify as. If it's not hurting me, I don't really care. If it's not hurting someone else, I don't really care. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. It's, you know, I don't want to see anybody discriminated against. But
No, fair enough. Here, I want to ask the entire panel. I want to simply go here because we've heard from Jeff and we're talking prospectively. And that simply is this, is that if we are talking about a holistic community moving forward and a multiplicity of dimensions, and if we assume and take the position that says, look, do as you will, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, why can't we find a place in our society for everybody without these artificial divisions like I'm right, you're wrong, zero-sum game? Fernando?
Because as long as people are different, this is going to continue, and that there's no way around it. We just have to figure out a way to live with each other and get through the nonsense. And, you know, the truth is that transgenders didn't just start existing now. It started in the late 1970s when and I forgot his name, who transitioned himself. He created the surgery so he can change himself from a man to a woman. So this isn't anything, this isn't new. This didn't just happen. And, you know, there are children that are born hermaphrodites. And guess what? At that point, doctors make a choice as to what sex they're going to assign, and they assign it. They could be wrong. And that's why some of these people feel displaced inside their own bodies. So there's part of the scientific proof that you're looking for, Adam. You're never going to know who these people are because they aren't going to walk around with a sign that says, hey, I'm a hermaphrodite. They picked the wrong sex. Now I'm screwed. So now I got to figure it out. All right. So there is some science to it. Whether you want to believe it or not is a different story. That's up to you. As to the, as to the issue at hand.
Okay, Guidry, please, because I think Fernando makes a very important point. I mean, what happens if somebody comes along and Adam thinks it's a feeling? He's 25 and Lithuanian, which we know is not true. But Guidry, I mean, what happens? I mean, how do we figure this out? And more importantly, we as a society, what kind of laws should we have to affirmatively protect those that are out there if we're a forward-thinking society? Guidry?
Well, first, I think Adam would pass for Lithuanian. He would definitely look like Lithuanian if he were in Lithuania. But when it comes to the test, I think that there is ultimately there is no fair conclusion in this topic. One way or another way, one of the group of people will be affected more negatively, will lose in this debate. We cannot protect or treat all of them equally. Right now, we have less than 1% of our population identifying as transgender individuals. Adam, it is not a fashion statement. It is not, oh, I woke up today and I feel like a woman. It's actually a gradual process, and it's a very demanding process. We have to acknowledge it. We have to respect transgender. We have to be there for a transgender, but at what cost? There was a big battle for women's right, for equal treatment. Right now, women cannot lose its stand and its ability to compete amongst themselves and to be able to work on it and really to go for it. But at the same time, we need to acknowledge that, okay, we have transgenders, we can play together. However, there is difference, biological difference that has proven by science, and we need to respect both of the parties. And in this particular case, we should not take away from women incorporating.
Okay. All right. Because you know, Nick's not here to help me land this plane. But what I do want to do is, because he's not here, I get to kind of run amok a bit. And what I want to do is I want to do a lightning round. And I got 30 seconds each way around. And that is to say, Jeff, my question to you is simply this. Look, in an increasingly racial, multi-dimensional, multiplex society, is there room for everyone, Jeff?
Well, I definitely believe there is. I mean, there's not room for people who kill and hurt people, but
Right.
If you want to live in a particular way, whether I agree with it or not, live and let live. If they're not hurting you, if they're not hurting someone else, then yeah, let them do what they want to do or need to do or whatever. And would I stop my kids from playing with a child that identifies as the opposite sex that they were born? No, my kids did that. I'm not that concerned about it. Treat them as a child of God. That's what I tried to teach my kids. And that's what my religious beliefs tell me.
Okay, Fernando, same question, except that Jeff made a very important point. I'm going to take out the fact that there may be terrorists, because terrorists, you're not going to let your kids play with terrorists, are you, Fernando?
Well, they may learn how to build bombs. So, maybe yes, maybe no. Who knows? Who knows what they may learn? Then after they learn, then, ship them off to Guantanamo or wherever they need to go. But look, my position is real simple. Do whatever the hell you want, as long as you're not telling me that I have to do it. So you want to go from man to a woman? Be my guest. You want to go from a woman to a man? Be my guest too. You want to walk around and call yourself a symbol the way Prince did? Fine. You want to call yourself it? Fine. Just don't tell me that I have to do it. Because then at that point, that's when we're going to get into arguments.
Okay. Adam, and I'm coming to you, Guidry.
Transgendered persons should never, ever be subject to discrimination. They should be welcomed as anyone else in society and have equal protection of the law because they have the same equal dignity as everybody else. However, there are differences between biological males and females, and that's why we have men's and women's sports. If we didn't have that distinction, there would be very few women in sports at all. And lastly, it's important to have some objective criteria, like we do for depression, anxiety, or any other ADHD, to determine when someone is or is not transgender. Without that criteria, like I said, it's based on a subjective feeling, and that's not enough. And that's why they reacted so negatively when I said I'm 25 and I'm Lithuanian. They said it was absurd. But the absurdity was their own argument.
Adam,
and that is the case.
Adam, everybody here loves you. I mean, and constantly,
I love you guys too.
Okay, well, you're constant cry out.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Well, I don't care about your feelings, just so you know. Just be clear. Guidry?
Well, Adam, I think you must have been sleeping under the rug because there is a lot of indication, medical assessment of how transgender people differ from regular people. It's a genetic disposition that affects the living of the people, and it's not new, Adam. It's really documented. They actually think that in maybe next 10 years they will be able to detect it in newborns. So we will see, but it's not such a known subject. My closing point would be just this subject should not be addressed emotionally. We should focus on science. We should see what could be the potential systematic effect if we do not acknowledge those physiological, biological differences and how they could affect individuals that could be directly affected by our notions on it. So the inclusion sometimes means that certain disclusion has to happen. However, we should have a debate and understand that why it is happening.
Wow. Listen, normally I would chime in and have Nick land this plane. But since we're doing things a bit different, Jeff, I want to thank you from out west, Guidry from Miami, Fernando from New York City, and Adam, you are not with unrequited love down there in Georgia. Okay.
Likewise, Bill.
I, here on behalf of the Lawyer's Den, with my perch simply given to me by the collective wisdom, and I serve at the behest of my colleagues, I want to say thank you. And I want the world to know that here at the lawyer's den, we're kind of cranky. Maybe we agree, maybe we disagree. But what we can tell you is this. You will hear it straight from us first, from all around this nation and all around the globe. So with that, we are going to land this plane, and we're going to say, Nick, wherever you are out there, we miss you. And we need you back there, buddy. Okay? So, gentlewoman and the rest of you, okay? I'm going to close out. Anybody got anything else to say?
Yeah, you can change your face, but you can't change your skeleton.
Okay. Anything else?
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Okay, fine. See, all right. Jeff?
No, I just believe, like I said at the outset, transgender people should be treated with dignity and respect. That doesn't mean that natural males can go into the boxing ring and crack the skulls of natural females. I don't want to see that. So
okay, well, Guidry, you now have the honor of landing this plane. You have the final word before I click on our outcome.
Well, I think that all of us agree that we should acknowledge each other's differences, especially biological, invest in more peer research, look into facts and science, and come up with the best solutions.
With that, we will see you another time. Thank you.
Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's